Welcome to another episode of Wrestling Tonight, covering all things pro wrestling. As always, live from No Cell Studios, I'm the Ace of Tavern, Acefield Retro, and joined, as always, by that one bad Chad himself. What is going on, man?
Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. This is the first time we're going live when we record. You know, you guys are getting the full, if you're a Patreon member, you're getting the full curtain pulled back. This is mine and Ace's Sunday morning routine. We brew some coffee, we fire up the Wrestling Tonight, we talk some wrestling news. So if you guys are on the Patreon, this is what you get, man. You're getting the live. This is almost 2 days ahead of when you get the audio. 2 days, yeah. So the audio drops on Tuesdays. If you're listening, awesome. And if you want to be a part of the video, sign up to Patreon over at theturnbuckletavern.com. But Ace, we have so much news. We've been gone a minute, dude. It's been a minute since we've been in the room.
Yeah, we pre-recorded the episode for the tourneys, and this is the first time we're back in the lab cooking up some news here for you guys since the new year. And this is there's a lot of stuff on the table here. And as you and I were dissecting what we have in our document, which, as always, again, pulling the curtain back, people that might be another perk for the Patreon, is to show people our document about some of the news that we collect throughout the week. But as we went on, it just shows it was a microcosm of how fast the news cycle actually moves, because some of the stuff became expired. Like, there was a shelf life on some of this news. I was like, we can't even talk about half this stuff. And it was pretty big news only 7 days ago.
Yeah, hey, AEW has a new world champion, but we're not really going to talk about it because that seems like a lifetime ago.
Right.
But yeah, so much big shit. And, you know, we come off of the tourneys. It's been almost 2 weeks since we recorded, and now we're coming off the tourneys and right back into the heat. We're talking Wrestle Kingdom. We're previewing Hard to Kill, and we've got some big WWE stuff to talk about, not to mention all the quick hitters. So anyone who's been listening to Wrestling Tonight, you guys come to, I hope you come to expect kind of a catch-all of the major pro wrestling promotions, and we try to keep you guys locked in on all of that stuff.
Yep, and this is one of many perks for joining the Patreon. As Chad mentioned before, $2.99 a month gets you all early access to all of our shows, gets all the special look-ins to certain things like the vlogs, fig hunts, a lot of great stuff on Patreon, and not to mention the Facebook community that's been growing of constant wrestling conversation. I myself created a Facebook just to join the group.
Same.
I haven't been disappointed, man. It's been amazing live chatting for Dynamite, talking about Raw and SmackDown. I'm sure there was a lot of discourse going on during Collision. So yeah, I mean, that is the benefit. I mean, if you're listening here by the sound of my voice on audio, we appreciate that 100%. But if you want to have access, you don't have to wake up 8:30 on Sunday, but you'd have access to it maybe Sunday night, Monday morning. It's right there for you. As soon as we record it, it's in your hands.
We're not giving out token news awards. If it's important, if the fans are talking about it, then we're talking about it. And that we're not just living in the AEW WWE bubble. And I tell you what, man, 2024 looks to be a year where we may be covering a lot more news from the TNAs of the world, because they're going to have a big year coming up.
I can't wait for it, man. And let's get into big story number one and discuss all the stuff happening over in Vegas. I feel like a lifetime ago, they had a great weekend of wrestling. Let's get into big story number one.
Big stories. Story one.
Big story number one. We have the fallout from Wrestle Kingdom 8. And man, what a night of wrestling it was. And if you were like me, you were sleep deprived, you were awaiting all the different results and sitting there. And my plan was, Chad, to not watch it in full. But once Okada and Danielson kind of took the stage, I was like, I'm already at the 5 a.m. mark. Might as well just stay up and suffer through work the next day. And this has become an annual tradition for me. Wrestle Kingdom is always around my birthday. It's around the start of the new year. It's a good way to kick off post-holiday blues, get rid of sort of, shaking off the old year. And this was a coming out party for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And you guys have heard us talk about this throughout the year. And a lot of the stuff that we're seeing with New Japan Pro Wrestling, they're in a rebuild. I think a lot of the star power is disappearing, and they're trying their best to cultivate new stars while respecting the old guard. As we saw on this show, there was an eclectic mix of both those things. So I thought the show was good. We'll go through some of the results, but your initial reaction on having seen Wrestle Kingdom 8.
I mean, this is It's a reminder of how important this event is. Like, you know, sometimes we get inundated with so many events, whether it's a pay-per-view or a PLE or, you know, streaming only service with TNA offering some of, you know, their not marquee events behind that Impact Plus paywall. You kind of get lost in the sauce, and things don't have that big feeling that we're used to. You know, when you sit down for a Mania or a Rumble, you can tell like this is WWE's big shows. Same thing with Wrestle Kingdom, man. When there's pomp, there's circumstances, it feels important. They break out all the stops. A lot of times I feel like this is a show where they crown maybe the person to really watch for 2024. And I think they did that on this show a little bit. And like you said, they honored some of the old guard and a couple surprising finishes for me. And if you guys aren't watching Wrestle Kingdom, I know it's late in the night. Like Ace said, he had to suffer through work. I tried. You send me your login. I tried, but I was like crashing hard. So I came home and caught up on it after the fact. But you can do that. You can watch it live, stay up, be a madman like Ace, or you can watch it the next day. But it's one of those events, like if you're a wrestling fan, if you can't dedicate all of your time to everything New Japan delivers, this is the one show of the year that you want to really make time for.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you mentioned the stage. It felt like, I mean, maybe Wrestle Kingdom 7 was the same, but I don't know. There was something missing from the last show that they returned this year. The stage felt big. Maybe it was really the rebranding of the stage. There was a lot of different feel and polish on the product. And I think the card held a lot of weight. We'll get to the finishes. They were surprising. There were some title changes that happened that I could not believe went down. But I think part of the match quality, they turned up to 11. And a guy like Tanahashi, who, you know, last we were talking about news that was kind of bridging the gap from 2 weeks ago, named New Japan Pro Wrestling president, which was a shocking development out of nowhere. They did a press conference and all that. But he's still active in the ring, obviously. He's a guy we saw on the AEW side of things where he was involved in Forbidden Door. We're like, oh, man, he looks a little bit worse for wear. He's not able to get around as much. You turn on the bright lights of Wrestle Kingdom, this dude went out there and absolutely tore it up with Zack Sabre Jr. Fast-paced match. They foot on the gas the whole time. There was no resting. This is what a television championship match should be about. And, I mean, we'll start there. Like, this match here, when I had – if I was to put money down, Zack Sabre Jr. was walking out with this title. I didn't think the reign was done. He is the inaugural champion, winning it earlier in 2023, had defenses against some of the best in the world, even outside of the promotion. When they lined up, I was like, okay, this is another good notch in Zack Sabre Jr.'s belt. But Tanahashi gets the win. The fans ate this up. It was an excellent outing from both these guys. And I'm not mad about the finish because it feels like ZSJ is on to bigger and better things elsewhere. And the TV title, I've been the biggest advocate. We talked about it on Smoky Mountain Wrestling. We talk about it on AEW. We talk about it with the Digital Media Championship. These championships should function much differently than most of the other championships. They should change hands. It should be unpredictable, similar to how WCW functioned with the TV title. It was defended. It could be lost. In a lot of ways, it is lost because it's one of those titles that is just constantly changing hands. And I understand people like, oh, you watered down the prestige of it. The TV championship, the best function of it is when it's changing hands and it feels like it's not comfortable anywhere. At any given moment, no matter the stakes or where they are in their career, they can win the championship.
Yeah, I mean, that to me is kind of what AEW did with the international title when Orange was on that run. You know, I guess you can say, hey, but there's no feud. There's no long-term feud built around this belt. TV titles, to me, every now and then you give them a feud, but for my money, though, those belts are told through the defenses of the title. Like, we want to see it active. It keeps the belt strong. And I see in the notes, like, for this match, you took the words right out of my mouth, because when I thought of this match, I'm like, this is just a sprint.